Hey guys, so the Street Fighter V beta test servers are now finally over, and I got some time to play and learn the next DLC character, Ed. So this video will be a review of Ed, his controls and what I think about him. Is he top tier? Should they change any with him? That kind of thing. Also, this video will be long-winded, so maybe grab a cup of hot cocoa or something, snuggle in your couch, and join me on this amazing journey of character design. So let's start by talking about his easy, accessible control layout for his special moves. I personally think Capcom did a good job with his controls in the sense that it can't be abused in a game that other characters with more complex inputs exist. So the biggest thing that worried me about Ed in general was his cycle rising. So that's his flash kick special move. Since this is an anti-air with invincibility, I thought it'd be too strong making it only 2 kick buttons. But Capcom did consider this and not make it invincible on the first few frames, so you can't just use this in a pinch. It's not invincible right away. You still have to anticipate the opponent jumping in on you. It's not as easy as something like pressing just standing light punch, for example. Now on top of this, you also can't use it to autocorrect. So if you see the opponent crossing you up with a jump, or they make their jump ambiguous, you can't use this blindly. They will hit you out of it, and sometimes you'll stay grounded and get destroyed. The startup is just too slow. The invincibility doesn't kick in time. And when you do it with Ed, sometimes he'll just kick in the wrong direction. So this is something not mindless where as an Ed player you don't have to worry about what side he's on when he jumps on you. You just press 2 kicks. It's not like that. They do have to jump in front of you. It was also smart by Capcom by not making this move have an EX version. Because if it did, then they'd have to make it faster or wider and basically create a move that will autocorrect, something like an EX flash kick would in that sense. But at least the EX flash kick requires a charge. It's not just 2 buttons that you can use while walking around. Another thing with Ed's special moves is they made his projectile a 2-step process. So it takes time to wind up. That way you don't have like a Rising Thunder scenario where you do a simple input for a projectile with a single input auto-correcting anti-air. Like Chell, for example. That'd be a disaster. So it's really obvious that Capcom thought of the inputs first when designing Ed and then applied the moves afterwards to make sure there were no consequences. They didn't have to basically, look back and then change the way things are because of the inputs. It was all designed ahead of time. Now, I don't think Capcom should make every character like this though. There should be powerful moves in Street Fighter with more complex inputs such as supers and command grabs, for example. Charge moves are usually stronger too because they require a charge. You get the idea. A really common thing that I hear a lot of people say over the years that aren't familiar with fighting games is they think that inputs in fighting games are some kind of arbitrary difficulty. Like they're put in the game to overcompensate it to make it seem like it's more deep or more elite. But that's not really what it's about. Complex inputs it gives the developers a chance to make moves that are much more powerful than others. It gives them the freedom to design a move that's harder to do and can't be abused and done easily. And I think that's great, and I think fighting games should keep that aspect about them. But at the same time, I also think developers should make characters that are suited for beginner players, that are easy to get into. And I also think there should be characters that are much more complex, that are for players that like to put in that extra time and be rewarded for it. So it is definitely a balancing act when it comes to just inputs alone for characters. Now, even though Ed is an easy character to play, and intended to be, I don't think his commands are exactly controller pad friendly either. Now what I mean by this is, I think it's easier for joystick, keyboard, or even hitbox users to play Ed because many of the commands are multi-button commands. So pad users, people that just use the regular console controllers, used to have problems playing older fighting games because of these 2 main reasons. 1, diagonal inputs, and 2, the location of the buttons. So performing diagonal inputs were solved by fighting game developers by making input leniency, where you don't have to be exactly precise on your motions. But multi-button presses are still kind of annoying for pad users because you don't have all 6 buttons laid out flat in front of you, all nice and organized. And the triggers on the pad require a small amount of additional pressure, which makes the timing a little different than the other buttons. You have to remember that controllers are designed for shooting or racing games, not fighting games. So when you have a character like Ed, who requires you to press 2 punches at the same time, and then 3 punches at the same time for an EX move, you obviously would want to use a macro 3-punch button on your controller, or it's just going to be clunky. Now on top of all of this, there's also another special move from Ed called Psycho Flicker. This is like his 100 hand slap special, which requires you to press a punch button 5 times consecutively, really fast, rapidly, which is very clunky for a pad user to do this gracefully, like a joystick user can, because a joystick user can use the piano method or slide method to consistently do this when he wants. So I don't think Capcom should have a rapid button special for a character that's supposed to be easy to use, for the reasons I just mentioned. Also, it conflicts with Ed's other specials because when I do the piano or slide method on joystick, which I'm really used to doing since I used to play Honda in Street Fighter 4, I would accidentally do a Psycho Upper. That's Ed's uppercut move. Or EX Psycho Upper, because of the input leniency, can't tell what the hell I'm trying to tell it to do. So when I'm pressing my punches consecutively, because of the leniency, sometimes I would think I'm pressing 2 punches at the same time, or 3. So I think both parties lose in this situation. Anyways, my message to Capcom is this. It's cool to have some characters with these control schemes. It definitely spices it up. But don't make every character like this, and don't mix them with rapid button specials at the same time. It conflicts with each other. Alright, moving on. So let's talk about Ed's gameplay now. I had a chance to play him against a variety of different characters throughout the beta, even though, let's be real, most of them were other Ed players. The rankings was mostly Platinum and Diamond ranked players I played against, even against some of my friends who were able to stop by my place at the time. So in general, Ed's game plan, in my opinion, is basically just to make your opponent want to jump at you. His anti-air options are very strong. Because of his Psycho Rising only being 2 kick buttons, you're able to crouch and use it at the same time, which makes it even harder for the opponent to just blindly jump at you. And the damage you get is very strong as well. So Ed wants players to jump at him. You're also able to assess if you want to burn a bar, or even 2 bars, to do additional damage after you land his anti-air. And even gain V-gauge if you want by comboing into your V-skill, or juggle into your V-trigger too. So your whole train of thought when playing Ed is that you want to make your opponent scared to want to jump in on you. But if he does jump in on you, it's okay, because like I said, your main anti-air is a 2 kick button special, which you can do while crouching, you can do it while walking forward or back, it doesn't matter. You just have to press it. But you also have other options as well. You can use his V-skill as an anti-air reliably. He's got a couple of normal attacks that can be used as anti-airs, his crouching hard punch, his standing medium kick. He's got a jumping air-to-air normal that juggles and allows you to combo afterwards. And just great conversions into his V-skill, his V-trigger, or just additional damage if you want to blow more bar, which you can figure out after you land the anti-air itself based on, how the match is going. There is just no other character in the game right now with the luxury of these options from scoring an anti-air. The closest, I guess, would be Urian, but he's got a 3-bar V-trigger. Now, his weakness to air attacks are meaties and deep cross-ups. But Ed also has one of, if not the best, backdash in the game right now to help him space properly to not be in that situation in the first place. So the question is, why would your opponent want to jump in on Ed then if he knows this? What can you do to make him fear Ed on the ground? Well, it is true that Ed's normals are pretty subpar compared to other characters, especially in range, and his confirms are pretty bad too. But Ed has some unique moves that will make it annoying for the opponent if he is extra passive. The first move I want to talk about is his Psycho Knuckle. This is that charge hard punch special where he goes straight forward. I have never been stuffed by the opponent doing this move, so he hasn't stuck out something and then it beat my Psycho Knuckle coming towards him. You can just fish with this all day if the opponent doesn't jump at you. If the opponent does block it though, you're only -2, so it's safe. You can also even just scumbag and throw in an EX Psycho Upper if they try to challenge you too often, so you can give them that, full true Street Fighter V experience. However, if you do randomly just happen to land this special on your opponent, then you get a ton of damaging options, so your opponent is not going to just want to sit there and take this all day. They're eventually going to want to try to jump at you and punish this. But the kicker is, on top of this, the charge hard punch, you can just slightly charge it and then release it, and basically Ed will just do a standing hard punch. and you'll still be able to have time to anti-air your opponent if he flinches and jumps at you when he sees the startup of this move. So it's pretty interesting. Now another move that's good on the ground, and that's going to help make the opponent want to jump in on you, is Ed's Fireball. Now even though it is slower compared to other fireballs, like the startup of actually doing the projectile, it's still a decent projectile that could be annoying for characters by like withering them down slowly. You're still controlling space and you're still forcing your opponent to do an action. Now the cool part is that Ed can just do the Psycho Spark, which is the first part of the projectile, and it can make the opponent flinch to jump, and then you can anti-air them. I have done this so many times in my matches, it's hilarious. It makes your opponent really like second guess himself with the animation, and allows you to just abuse more ground moves. Finally, we have Ed's V skill. This is the one when you fully charge it on the ground. If Ed charges it and the opponent blocks, they get put in a situation where they're like pulled right next to Ed, right next to you, and you're +3 on block, +3. This means you can shimmy them if they do a delay attack, or you can just frame trap them. So they basically have to guess. And on top of this, if you hit them with this, then the reward is really huge. You get damage, you can spend additional meter for even more damage, or you can go for a mix-up. Now obviously this move is really slow, which makes it really tempting for the opponent to want to jump in at you. So yeah, basically you just want to establish to your opponent that he can jump in at you at the start, and then abuse your slow ground attacks to wither them down. That's the basic game plan for Ed, at least for me so far, and it's worked out pretty damn well. So will Ed be top tier? That's a very common question that a lot of people ask me, and you know, obviously it's too soon to answer that. But I will say this though, in the short amount of time playing him, he's really damn fun to play and pick up. I feel like he just clicked with me right away. He's not too flowcharty. He has to mix up his playstyle throughout the match. You really gotta think about what you're doing. You don't want to be predictable, and you know, it just doesn't make him boring to play when you play that kind of style, right? Where you're not using your brain and constantly just spamming specials randomly, hoping that something hits. I don't think he'll be top tier though in the end, because you know, right now when I think about it, he has nothing very exploitable like the current top tiers right now have. Most of the top tiers in Street Fighter V right now have things that are very low risk and high reward with really good comeback factor and just snowbally gameplay, where one hit could be the end of the entire round. The only possibility of Ed being top tier is if people find some really cheap shit with his V-trigger. Like his V-trigger is definitely the deciding factor, but he definitely needs something like really reliable though, like 50/50s from everywhere. Then it can be possible, since he has a 2-bar V-trigger with a really reliable V-skill that builds really fast, and he does have 1000 health and 1000 stun, which is good. But in terms of his V-trigger, Capcom did play it safe by not giving him an overhead, for example, but he can still instant overhead with his jumping light kick, but you're kind of like giving up the combo when you do that. You can also corpse hop with his standing hard kick, so I guess there is still some potential for mixing the opponent up. So let's talk about Ed's weaknesses now, or I guess more specifically the problems that I have personally with Ed's design that I really think Capcom should change with him before he finally launches. Right now in Ed's current state, his confirms are really unreliable and clunky, his hit confirms. A small example off the top of my head is comboing into his Psycho Upper. Both his crouching medium punch and crouching medium kick can be cancelled into it, but if you link a standing medium punch into a crouching medium punch, then the Psycho Upper just whips, which is really annoying and it doesn't really make sense. If you use his crouching medium kick instead though, and it's not deep enough, his Psycho Upper will whiff anyways. And the EX Psycho Upper has no extended range to compensate for this, so that won't work either. Now, it's not like you get anything after a Psycho Upper except Super, even in the corner. So I really think Capcom should extend the range of this special to make it consistently combo. It's slow and it can be punished hard if the opponent blocks it, so it's not like it could be abused. Also, Ed has probably some of the worst punishes on the opponent's moves in the game. You know, Street Fighter V is a game that a lot of specials have so much pushback that's hard enough as it is to punish things, and just having Ed as a character that has problems confirming things in general makes it that much harder. Now Ed has the same type of issue with another special move, his Psycho Rising. This is his 2 kicks like his flash kick special. You have to cancel this from a standing light punch to combo, but you have to do this extremely deep on the opponent. Just by doing crouching light kick into standing light punch, you are risking the pushback to take you out of range to combo, and you do not want to whiff this move on the opponent because the opponent gets a crush counter reward. So that makes it just super scary to confirm sometimes. If you land a counter hit on the opponent with a light attack, it might push him back more and screw you over, and you'll just whiff even though you were close in the first place. So I definitely think this needs to be fixed. There's a ton of times where I've knocked down the opponent, I've walked up to him, and I went crouching light kick first, and I got a counter hit, and then he got pushed back too far, and then my standing light punch, it comboed, and then my 2 kick buttons, it just completely whiffed in the air because there's just too much pushback from those 2 normals. I guess you could argue that you're supposed to use the Psycho Flicker when confirming from lights, but if that's really the intention of Capcom, then, you know, rip pad users. Now this counter hit issue also happens with Ed's standing medium punch, which you can't cancel out of, by the way. If you do a meaty standing medium punch, and it counter hits when they're crouching, then sometimes it just pushes them too far back to link into a crouching hard punch. So what I'm basically saying is there's a ton of inconsistency with Ed's combos in general. You know, when you land a counter hit, you should be rewarded for it, not punished for it. But anyways, I really hope Capcom fixes this before Ed is released. And, you know, to be perfectly frank, Ed is described by Capcom as this character with really strong frame traps. But if that's true, then his confirms should be rewarding and reliable. Whoever is actually playing and testing Ed at Capcom HQ should have been able to pick up on these problems like right away. So the next big question is, when does Ed release? At this time, we just don't know. We know he'll be coming with the next balance patch, and Capcom says we'll get an update in the coming weeks. So it could be at the end of the month at the earliest, I would say. So let's wrap this video up, guys. Sorry for making it so long. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as, of course, I'll be posting more fighting game news and guides in the future. If you guys want to check out some more Ed match footage, be sure to check out my channel because I posted some of my matches from my stream. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts on Ed, if you'll be playing him. Are you guys excited when he finally releases? And till then, guys, I'll see you next time. Take care.